Hello, everyone. My name is Eden Lang, and today we're going to talk about sex, more specifically, sexuality. Sex is a biological fact. Without it, or without some form of reproduction, all animals on Earth would cease to exist. Um, Without it, evolution would not be driven, and also, sex is what drives the majority of human behavior. While sex is biological, sexuality, on the other hand, is culturally defined. And since culture is arguably what makes us human, this would make sexuality a uniquely human attribute. Now, I've included some really cool art pieces throughout my presentation that represent how much art is influenced by sex and sexuality, from just the more intimate display of bonding in the photo of Kiss, to later in my presentation, I have some more sexually graphic art depictions. Just as a warning, if that makes you uncomfortable, I welcome you to sit with that discomfort and ask yourself why it makes you uncomfortable. Uh, and we'll discuss a little bit of that later in this presentation as well. Sexuality is a product of a society's beliefs, norms, politics, customs, power balance between genders, and as such, it varies across culture greatly. So, two opposing cultures that we might be slightly more familiar with just in the US alone are Christianity, and the more free love, hippy dippy movement that came out of like the 1960s. And so, in Christianity, it's a more sexually repressed culture, where sex is saved for marriage, it's between a man and a woman only. And it is obviously to increase bonds, and intimacy as well, but only saved for that couple. Whereas on the right here, we have the more free-spirited hippie, where sex is more of a experience of one of the highest states of pleasure that humans can achieve. It's not always just between one man and one woman, sometimes multiple partners, sometimes um, other genders, and yeah, just very, very different sides of the spectrum when it comes to sex within the US and ideas around it. I mean, in the Christianity in the second century, sex was forbidden almost. They, in order to have ties with God, you were meant to have enough sex to produce several children and then stop having sex even once you're married. Whereas now it's more of like once you're married, it's kind of a free for all between you and your married partner, of course. And a lot of religions have beliefs like this because sex is believed to be self-serving, self-gratifying. It can spread disease, and they believe that it's sort of a blockage on the path of a spiritual journey, as well as goes against a lot of religious teachings. So these are just two examples within the US alone of how much culture and our upbringing and our morals that were instilled within us and our values affect our thoughts and feelings towards sex. Where you might feel a lot of shame or guilt in expressing your sexuality, or maybe you feel really empowered by it. All depends on your personal history as well as the culture or the subculture that you were brought up in. So, as such, sexuality influences culture and culture influences sexuality. I mentioned previously that I had some more erotic scenes. This is one of them. I'm sure you can guess which one. But I actually think these are really cool because here we have sex between a female and a male on a clay plaque from Mesopotamia in 2000 BCE. And on the right here, we have an incredibly erotic scene. I believe the majority of them are threesomes and things like that, much more open things like that, on the rim of a red figure helix. And it's just from ancient Greece in 510 BC. And I think this is pretty cool because it shows that humans have been getting down since the beginning of us. And what's cool about ancient Greece is that they actually had really interesting attitudes towards sex, and their sexuality was very open. Um, their feelings towards homosexuality and gender fluidity were very, very accepting. And as such, they also had like, they were a less like incestuous culture, and just the way that they believed and thought about sex just completely changed their culture, and yeah, and their art that came from it. And yeah, I just think these are really cool. So if that image did make you uncomfortable, perhaps it's because you grew up in a culture where there are more taboos or different taboos. And so I've included here a list of taboos that we see throughout all different cultures, primarily in our culture. Not all of them still, though things like homosexuality and transgender are still considered taboo within certain subcultures within the US. And until recently, were much more widespread. There is also incest, pedophilia, public nudity, genital mutilation. And while I am not condemning or condoning any of these, simply pointing out that taboos are only in human societies. The animal kingdom doesn't see these as taboos. Now, they have some mechanisms to avoid things like incest, because incest can have damaging effects on the offspring, but otherwise, taboos are unique to humans. What I did want to show also is a more recent depiction of how much sex influences culture. I mean, all of our ads and media are just oozing sex. So here we have, and I also think that this can be harmful, as much as this is a sex positive talk. The fact that the entire cover here is showing a woman what she needs to do because her sexuality is so valued, her ability to be conventionally attractive and be good in bed is so highly valued in our culture. It ends up objectifying us, and the same thing happens for men as well. And so I wanted to share that in both of these more recent actual magazines that people buy. So I do have this cartoon. It's all about the sexually rich lives of bonobos. Unfortunately, there's no sound, so I have the captions on for that. And it's a cartoon because I felt like the live video, I felt like I was intruding, so I went with this one, and I feel like it's a better depiction of it as well. Here we go. Sorry for the no sound, but you can read the captions. The peaceful and sexy world of one of our closest primate cousins, the bonobos, who we share around 99% of our genetic code with. So our bonobos' approach to sex, they form strong social bonds, use it to ease tension. This adult male has had sex 7 times today. Quick copulation with his female friend when he woke up this morning. Sex with a few other males before they went out in search of some food. And when they returned, most of the members of the sex engaged in more sexual activities in quick succession. And when a male finds a male having sex with someone he had sex with earlier, they're not offended. They just go have sex with someone else instead. And then they settle down for a nap. And so what the rest of this video is on talk about is how bonobos don't fight as much as chimpanzees, and they are a lot equal. There's equality between the males and the females. And I'm running out of time, but oops. So the difference between human and animal sex is that for bonobos, this is simply how they have sex. It's not sexuality because it's not dictated by culture, society, values, or morals. And while sexuality in animals is complex, it relies on the nervous and endocrine systems and genetic factors, the prominent difference for humans is that our cultural settings and those values and morals that we are ingrained with and attitudes affect the neurological component of sexuality. I can't get this to go down. So sex has a lot of things that it does for us, a lot of needs that it fulfills, maintaining relationships, increase affection, reducing stress, and this is across the board for all animals. And sexuality affects each of these functions and is unique to humans because it's the culmination of all aspects of what makes us human, culture, and what makes us animals, the instinctual pursuit of pleasure and evolutionary success. So I'll leave you all with, is sex what makes us human, or is it what brings us closer to our fellow non-human animals? Thank you.